All right, welcome back to a new day and continuing on in the financing chapter. Once again, I want to stress to you how important the state thinks this chapter is. There's probably, of the 55 questions, there's probably 8 or 9 or 10 from this chapter. So you're talking 20 to 30% of the chapter based on, or the test, more like 10 to 15% out of this one chapter. There is so much in here that can be tied into your job, even though we're not financing people, because, as I told you once before, we're the first person most of us come to. They're going to ask you questions about loans and things like that. So you got to know some basic parts. So today we're going to cover some basic types of loans so that you can get an understanding of what we're going to talk about, or what you can talk about with your client. The first loan I want to talk about is what they call a straight loan. Now, in your book, and for those of you people online, listen up. In your book, it says also known as an interest-only loan. No, it is not an interest-only loan. Mark that out. I will show you what an interest-only loan is here in just a second. A straight loan is a loan in which you pay off all of the interest first, then all of the principal second. All right? So your first 200 payments, or pick a number, 80 payments, are going to be all of the interest that you would have accrued on that loan. Once you pay all of that off, then you start working on the principal payments, and you pay all of the principal off. And when you're done making all of the payments, your loan balance is zero. All right? So straight loan, you pay all of the interest first, then all of the principal. Okay? The key part is, when you're done paying, the balance on the loan is zero. Now, contrast that with an interest-only loan. An interest-only loan means you only pay the interest. You never touch the principal amount. At the end of the number of payments where you paid the interest, you owe exactly what you borrowed. All right? You're only paying the interest. Basically, you're renting the money. I borrow $100,000. I paid off all the interest over the 5 years. Now I still, at the end of 5 years, I still owe $100,000. Okay? Straight loan, interest, then the principal, I owe zero. Interest only, interest, don't pay any principal, I still owe the principal amount at the end of the interest-only loan. Are we good? When that interest-only loan ends, at the end of 5 years, 6 years, I owe the $100,000 that I borrowed. I have to make that payment back to them in one payment. It's called a balloon payment. A balloon payment, by definition, is usually 2 to 3 times what a normal payment would be. So the balloon's kind of a generic number. But in this scenario, you would balloon, and it's called ballooning it out. I got to balloon it out. I got to pay the $100,000. So for 4 years and 11 months, I pay the interest on the 12th, the last payment of the month. I haven't paid any principal. I pay it one shot, the $100,000. It's called a balloon payment, one time. Nobody? There we go. Thank you. How do you pay $100,000 at one time? There are two ways to make that payment at one time. What are they, Michelle? You refinance and repay that off and start again. That's one way to do it. So in essence, all you're doing is reshifting out this time frame, because remember, a refinance is a sale with a repurchase. So you're paying off that 100 grand and getting a new 100 grand and starting the process over. The other way to do it is, what'd you say? I heard somebody say it a minute ago. Sell it. I would sell the property, take the money that I sold it for, and pay off the 100 grand. Okay? So you can either refinance it and balloon it out, or you can sell the property and balloon it out. There's always the third option. You hit the lottery somewhere and you got lucky and you just take it out of your pocket, but we're not going to count that right now. Okay? So the question is, why would anybody do that? Thank you. She tees up a lot of softball questions for me. Why would anybody do this loan? There are a couple really good reasons to do this loan. If I'm paying interest only, the monthly payment is probably smaller, right? So that means if I'm paying it on a rental property where I'm renting it out to someone else, that means my profit is bigger, all right? So it can be used in like a commercial application where I'm going to buy a property and rent it all out, and every month I'm making enough money that I'm overpaying, all right? That's one reason. There's an even better reason. What would be another better reason that I would want to not make, or to make small monthly payments? The answer was flippers. We'll give you 3/4 of a credit. It works really well for properties that appreciate in value really quickly, like the old Florida market or the California market. Because what happened in those days was you were getting builders that were going to tell everybody, hey, I'm going to build 100 condos. Do you want to buy one? And what an investor would do is go borrow the money interest only to buy the condo before it's even built. All right? In essence, those investors were funding the builder because they would give the builder the 100 grand. Now they're paying low monthly payments to the bank that they can carry. But in 3 years, when that condo's done, I'm going to sell it on the open market, and hopefully, like in the old Florida market, it's now worth $150, and then I sell it for $100, and I make the $50,000 in profit. But I don't want to carry the big, large monthly payment of a normal loan, so I get just an interest only and pay a couple $100 for 3 or 4 years. And if you do the math, a couple $100 for 3 or 4 years versus the 50 or 60 grand at the end that you're going to make, makes money.
Can you get a better interest rate?
Interest only, can you get a better interest rate? I don't know. I think that would depend on the borrower. Probably my guess is no, because they're taking more risk. The commercial lender, since they're not getting any of their profit back at the time, and they're relying on one balloon payment, I don't think there's an advantage. The advantage comes in the form of, instead of paying $450 a month, you're only maybe paying $300 because you're just paying the interest portion. That's where the advantage would come in. So it's good for investors, and it's also good for properties that appreciate quickly, where you know you're going to flip it out in 2 or 3 years, and the property's going to appraise for more than you owe. All right? So, but the point is, interest only is designed to be ballooned out because you owe the entire amount. Straight loan, interest and principal. And the other thing that maybe you caught on was kind of subtle. Straight loans are typically 20 to 30 years. That gives you that time to pay off that principal. where interest-only loans are usually short-term, 3, 5, 6 years. All right? The next loan is called an amortized loan. Amortized is Latin. It means to kill off slowly, which is what I thought marriage meant. But they swear you down. Saw one comedian once said he was married so long he didn't even look both ways when he crossed the road anymore. Amortized means, and this is the one that you guys are probably the most familiar with. An amortized loan means that every payment you make has some portion of principal and interest in that one payment. All right? So the curve looks like this. On a straight loan, for you non-math people, a vertical line is still a curve. It just has zero slope or infinite slope. All right? That's why it's all interest, then all principal in the straight loan. In the amortized loan, your curve dies off slowly, and you can see that this portion here would be the interest, this portion's the principal. So every payment you make has some amount of principal in it and some amount of interest in it. Another term they use for amortized, you will hear sometimes is called a level payment loan. Level payment means, and I'm sure you guys all have this, every month your payment is the exact same amount. It's level. $750.33. Of that $750.33, some portion of it goes to the interest, and some portion of it goes to the payment. It's called level, and they make it level so you guys can budget your monthly expenses. That way it's not jumping around, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. All right? So the question, as you know, how much interest is paid on the first payment? It's a big number, right? And then as you make more and more payments, look at what this curve is showing you. As you make more and more payments, your portion of interest gets smaller and the portion of principal gets larger. When you make the last payment, the loan balance will be zero. That is called fully amortized. Fully amortized means I have amortized the interest over 30 years so that on my 360th payment, the amount I pay brings the loan principal to zero. So the slang word that you hear it called is 30-year AM. That's very common. A 30-year AM mortgage. 30 years, AM means amortized mortgage. And then they'll tell you, well, it's fully amortized. Okay, that means out in the 30th year, the last payment I make, my balance is zero. So it's a 30-year amortized mortgage. All right? Want to have some fun with math? Fun with math time. So I borrow $100,000 at 6%. My level payment is $750 a month. Everybody follow me. I went to the bank, borrowed 100 grand. I got charged 6% interest. They tell me my monthly payment on a fully 30-year amortized loan is $750. Good? My question to you is, after the first payment, how much do I owe on the loan? What's the loan balance? I hear a lot of mumbling.
Would it be an interest one or would it be that one?
I told you it's a fully amortized loan. It's a 30-year fully amortized loan. Level payment, $750 a month. I borrowed $100,000 at 6%. My question to you is, I've made my first payment. Now I call the bank and go, how much do I owe on my loan? That number is what?
$100,000 plus how many days interest?
So we have an answer of $100,000 plus how many days interest? So what you're telling me is after I make a payment, I owe more than I started with.
I could, it just depends on it.
No, you can't.
Well, if you borrowed $100,000, you get charged interest every day, right?
If I borrow $100,000, I get charged interest every day. Right.
If you waited 45 days to pay a payment or something, you would owe more, because you'd owe interest.
But I made the payment of $750. That was the,
Well, I get what I'm saying, I don't know how much the interest is.
yes, you do. It's not a hard question if you actually just take a minute and think about it, because you do know how much the interest is. How much is it?
Well, 6%.
6% of
100,000,
is how much?
6,000.
$6,000, right? So that $6,000 is spread out over how long?
30 years.
No. 1 year, right? Interest rate's 1 year. So I pay $6,000 a year in interest. How much is that a month? $99,295 is not the answer, but you're down the right road. Finish the question, the line of theory I just asked you. You just told me you paid $6,000 a year. So how much is that a month? $500, right? I told you how much was my payment? $750. Well, if 500 of it's interest, guess how much is principal? 250. So from my 100,000, I now take off $250. After my first payment, I owe $99,750. Right? It's not that difficult to calculate. When you first hear the story, a lot of people freeze up. There's one of these on the exam. All right? Now, just for fun, I've made my second payment. How much do I owe now?
You made a payment on the 99 cents.
So I what? So I made my second month's payment. There's a trick, and there's the kicker. Tiffany just caught it. You can't say take 250 off more, because that 250 principal is based on me owing 100 grand. I don't owe 100 grand anymore. Now I owe 99,750. So take 6% of that, divide it by 12, subtract that from 750, and you get my principal payments like $251.25 this year, which makes sense, doesn't it? Didn't I tell you that as payments go on, my principal amount gets bigger and bigger and bigger? If the first one was $250, the second payment ought to be more than $250. Well, it is. It's $251, and it's either 25 or 75 cents. I'm doing it from memory. 25? Then you take that off of, take $99,750 minus the $251.25. You now owe $99,498.75. Now, after the third payment, what would you do? Same thing. Only you start now with the $99,449. That is called, in math world, that's called an iteration. An iteration is when you start number 2 with the answer from number 1. And then number 3 starts with the answer from number 2. And you keep working your way down. This, my friends, is how they calculate the table when you guys bought a loan, mortgage, and they gave you the amortization table that shows. This is how they do it. You guys can literally do this. If I wanted to be a real pain in the butt, I could ask you, how much do you owe after the 15th payment? The math is the same every time. It just would take you a minute to go, okay, I got that answer, I need to move over here. Got that answer, move it over here. If you were an Excel spreadsheet guru, you could write a formula that would take the answer from that cell as the starting block from that cell and go, brrr, run it down 360 times. Guess what the answer is at the very 360th one? Zero, because I told you it was a fully amortized loan. Expect one of these on the exam. After the first payment, they'll do that one because you can calculate the math fairly simple. All right? There is one of these guaranteed on the loan, on the exam.